If you walk into a pet store and you ask somebody, what should I feed my Sulcata tortoise? I would bet more than half the time you're going to get a wrong answer. First of all, not a lot of people know exactly what a Sulcata is and what type of a tortoise it is. And second of all, even if they do, they might recommend the wrong types of things to feed your Sulcata. Today, I'm going to tell you what your Sulcata should be eating and all of the things that you should avoid feeding your Sulcata. So your Sulcata literally cannot eat protein or animal products at all. Fruit is not very good for them, and vegetables aren't really going to give them the nutrition that they need. They're okay as an occasional treat, but they should not be the base of their diet. So the foundation of your Sulcata's diet should be grasses and hays. This is non-negotiable. Grass and hay should make up 75% to 90% of your Sulcata's diet. This isn't a suggestion. This is what they need to survive. The best options are Timothy grass, which is really widely available and it has good fiber and low protein. Orchard grass is a little bit softer, but it's well accepted. Bermuda grass is great for hot climates. Meadow grass, oat grass, barley grass are all fine. If your Sulcata has access to a pesticide-free lawn, that is a great thing. So they can actually be eating fresh grass as it's growing. Just make sure there are no chemicals being sprayed on the grass. One hay that you want to avoid feeding is alfalfa. If you have horses, you know this, but alfalfa is one of the highest protein hays. That's why we feed it to horses where we want to put on weight. But for Sulcatas that cannot process a lot of protein, and that can actually ruin their kidneys over time, it's fine to feed in small amounts, but you don't want to feed baby Sulcatas a lot of alfalfa because it's way too heavy in protein and it actually can cause them to grow too quickly. Even if your Sulcata has access to fresh grass outside, you still want to provide dried hay because that is the closest thing to what they'd be eating in the wild, which is dried grasses. And that is going to provide them with the fibrous roughage that they need to keep their digestion going. I know it sounds complex to add all these different hays to your Sulcata's diet, and that is why we created our Sulcata superfood powder. I wanted the highest quality of food for my Sulcatas, and so what I did was create the perfect superfood for them. The first ingredients are orchard grass, dandelion leaf, Timothy hay, hibiscus flowers. In this food, there is everything that your Sulcata needs, the perfect level of fiber and protein, and nothing that they don't need. And this is critically important to make sure they have their foundational base of nutrition met, including all of the vitamins and minerals that they need. And it's really, really easy. You just mix it with a little bit of water. The Sulcatas love it, and you can sleep at night knowing that they're primary dietary needs are being met. So once you've met sort of the base diet needs of your Sulcata, then you can start supplementing with different kind of fun things to add in. So let's talk about flowers, leaves, and weeds. These are excellent additions to the diet and most Sulcatas love them. Think of them as nutritional bonuses and enrichment on top of the grasses and hays that they need as a foundation. So some safe options are hibiscus flowers and leaves, dandelions, the whole plant, including the flower. Rose petals are great. You want to make sure they're pesticide free. Nasturtium is great, the flowers and the leaves. Violet flowers are great, plantains, chickweed. You're always going to want to Google before you give your Sulcata something from your yard because there are a lot of things out there that are poisonous. But dandelions are great, and some of these basic things that we've highlighted here are great additions that they're going to really enjoy. Just please make sure there's no pesticides, no fungicides, nothing is sprayed on any of the plants that you're giving them because we don't want any chemicals or toxins or pesticides going into our Sulcatas. They can cause really terrible consequences. So please make sure you don't let anybody spray anything in your yard if you're letting your Sulcata graze or if you're picking things from your yard and feeding your Sulcata. So let's talk about vegetables next. So you can use vegetables sparingly in your Sulcata's diet. You don't want it to be the base of their diet because they cannot digest these as well as the grasses that we spoke about earlier. So vegetables really should only make up 5 to 10% of their total diet. So if grass and hay are the main course, the vegetable is a side dish. So some good options are shredded carrots, butternut or acorn squashes, dandelion greens, which can be offered more liberally. Leafy greens like kale, turnip greens, mustard greens are fine in moderation. Cabbage only very occasionally because it can be very gassy. Small amounts of lettuce are fine, though it really doesn't have great nutritional value. So feeding them leafy greens is great, just not as the core of their diet. It's really a supplement or kind of something to add variety and interest to their diet. Okay, let's talk about fruit. I know most Sulcatas love fruit and it is fun to feed them fruit, but it is not going to be good for their digestion or their health over time to have a lot of fruit every day. So if we talk about the main course being the grasses and the hays, and then a side dish being the vegetables, fruit should be the dessert. Maybe not every day, maybe special occasions. I know it's hard, but Feeding them fruit on the regular can cause them to be very picky. They can prefer fruit and start not eating all the things that they actually need. And you can end up with a very picky or sick sulcata in the long run. You know, fruit has a lot of sugar in it, and that can damage the beneficial bacteria in their gut and make it harder for them to break down the grasses in their natural diet. So if you were to feed them a lot of fruit, even for a week at a time, it can really throw off their digestion and cause problems absorbing the right nutrients from their regular diet. And so you just want to be really, really careful with what you're feeding them, track how much fruit that you're giving them, and make sure that it's not more than 10% at the very most of their diet. And certainly for baby sulcatas, you want to completely avoid fruit while they're very, very tiny, as their digestive systems just can't handle it. Just like baby humans, they're very, very sensitive when they're little. All right, let's talk about things you can never ever feed your sulcata without having really big problems. Some of these are really obvious, but some may surprise you. First is meat or dairy of any kind. They would never have meat or dairy in the wild, and they're strict herbivores, so they don't want excessive protein that can cause kidney failure. Dog or cat food for this reason is a complete no-no. Way too much protein and completely wrong nutritional levels. Beans, peas, soy, legume products have way too much protein. They cannot handle digesting them. So grains and seeds are also a problem because of that. So you want to stay away from any grains or seeds. No avocados, no rhubarb, no tomato plants, onions, garlic, chives. These are all problematic for sulcatas, and actually spinach too. So spinach isn't acutely toxic, but it is high in oxalic acid, which binds to calcium and blocks the absorption of calcium. So over time, it can cause shell deformities and problems with calcium over time. So spinach should not be a main part of your sulcata's diet at all. And then you want to avoid any toxic plants, of which there are a lot. Landscaping plants, house plants can be toxic. So you always want to Google before you feed your sulcata anything new, and just be really, really careful here. So let's talk about supplementation as the last part of sort of what a sulcata should eat. So even if you are giving them the right grasses and hays, and they're grazing and they're getting a little bit of fruits and vegetables, you still want to supplement their diet. And that's because we just don't know how much nutrition is in the grasses that you're feeding them. And we want to make sure they're getting all of the vitamins and minerals that they need. Just like how people should take a multivitamin just to safeguard their diet, sulcatas should have a supplement. So this is a sulcata vitamin and mineral topper supplement. It has every vitamin and mineral as well as probiotics that your sulcata needs. So you just sprinkle it over the top of their food, whether it's the superfood powder that I discussed earlier or their hays and grasses. This is something that offers everything they need so that you can be sure that they have all of the nutrition for their bones, their skeletal system, their shell, their kidneys, their liver, their heart, their brains. Everything that they need is included in this. And so this is a great product to just supplement their diet on a daily basis. The important thing about calcium is obviously they need calcium to grow their shells and grow their bones. And so it's important to give baby sulcatas more calcium. And then as they're adults and they are growing relatively slower, they need a little bit less calcium. So definitely supplement every day for babies, and then maybe 2 or 3 times a week for adults. So diet is one of the most important things that you can invest in for your sulcata. And the investments that you make when they're young can last their entire life. We're talking 100 years plus. And so it's really important to make sure they're getting the correct base diet of grasses and hays, maybe a little bit of vegetables, and then really rarely and sparingly fruit, just as a treat or a special occasion. And then daily supplementation of vitamins, minerals, calcium, and probiotics. And so that would make up sort of the ideal perfect diet for your sulcata, that if you invest in it while they're young, it can really multiply their health and their resistance to disease and their immunity. So it is really important to invest early so that they have a long, happy, and healthy life. I hope this video was helpful for you. If it was, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment if you have any questions, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.